And I've showed up at NORML meetings for several years and been talking about this, that, and the other thing for the last year or so. I've been talking about this trial and of course others. But what happened in my trial, some of you guys were there a lot of times, some of you poked your head in once or twice. But anybody who even sat in for one day, with the exception of maybe one day that went normal as the trial is supposed to, you saw that things happened in a very unjust way, that the judge and the prosecutor and even the bailiffs, the whole justice system worked in concert to get this conviction that they ultimately got. And what we found out later on was that the jury bought into what the prosecution did. And what that was the prosecution was allowed to do whatever they wanted for 17 days of trial. If you think about that, 17 days of trial. No trial goes that long. Michael Jackson's trial didn't go that long. Most murder cases are solved in 2 to 3 days. Rape cases, all cases are solved in a week. This was almost over 3 weeks. Okay, the prosecution was allowed to do anything they wanted, and the defense was stifled from prior to trial all the way to the very end, even to the very last statement, the last objection. Everything about it was wrong. The judge sustained his own objections, suppressed evidence, suppressed witnesses, and fortunately there were plenty of people watching. So as crazy as it sounds, there are people shaking their head going, yeah, you're right, that's what happened, I was there, I saw it. But the unfortunate part was the jurors believed that the judge's treatment of us was because of our behavior. And they believed that. And they believed that they saw all the evidence. And so the part that they were allowed to see made it appear things were a certain way. Had they been allowed to see the whole picture, they would have certainly thought the opposite, because the truth was the opposite. At the end of the day, I was found guilty on all counts, which meant I have 12 felony counts of sales. Okay. Now, most people say, you've been good all your life. You've never had a conviction of anything. You've an outstanding citizen. You've helped so many people. How could they possibly take you away? The likelihood is, on January 11th, the likelihood is I will be taken into custody. And there's no way for me to know what the sentencing is going to go, but the maximum is 12 years. And they offered me a no-jail deal, which many people said I should have taken it. People have taken me aside in private and said, you shouldn't have gone through this. You shouldn't have put your family through this. You shouldn't have done this. But and people that care a lot about me have said that and still say it. But the reality is I couldn't. And I've got this angry American that lives inside my heart that says, you know what, you didn't do anything wrong. You never hurt anybody. The laws are messed up, but you followed them best as you could. And there's no reason in hell why you should be convicted and sentenced for this. And you've got to fight it, because most people won't. Most people do take that deal. Most people will just roll over. And the thing that I've learned through the last 2 years of this ordeal is that this is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than any of you. And if some of us don't fight back, we don't have a chance in hell. We're never going to win it. And eventually, every one of us will end up in that trial, or they'll just end up in jail. And the jails are filling up. They're full, and they're still making room for people like me. Okay, so don't fool yourself and don't pat people on the head and think that, it's going to be okay, because you know what, the reality is we're facing something that wants to take away our freedoms, and it's doing everything it can to do it. So if you're able to, pay attention to cases, support somebody. If you find out somebody's going to trial, show up just one day. One of the things that made this possible for me to do and stay strong and stay defiant through this whole thing is every time I look back into the gallery, there was at least 20 people there. Sometimes the whole room was full, but the least there was at least 20 people. Every day are people willing to say, you know what, this is important enough for me to bear witness to. And we have to pass this on. It can't end here. It has to start here and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Anytime you hear about court support, anytime you hear about anybody that needs it, we've got to show up. And we've got to make it important, because one day it's going to be you. The odds are, even you, the recreational user, the one time you're sitting in your car, the one time cop comes pounding on your door, next thing you know, you got handcuffs on you for the first time, and your life changes. And either you curl up in a ball and take a deal like most do, or you become an activist. Okay? Whatever way it goes, it'll change your life. So imagine had you paid it forward for a while prior, and you can count on people that will come to your aid. And even if you don't, somebody will still come, because I'll be hopefully not in jail, and I'll still come. But either way, the green team needs to get bigger and bigger and bigger until we end this. So this is our very first wave of fundraising. Where we're at now is I'm getting sentenced on January 11th. I can't file the appeal until the sentencing happens. But we're putting all the motions in order right now. The appeal is being written, motions are being filed. Everything that can be done is being done. Allison Margolin and Chris Glue are still handling this prior to sentencing. We're trying to bring in some appellate level lawyers to join the team. I have no money right now. The money that I have is going to be raised starting here and continue on. Some people have been generous and been donating. But at the end of the day, we need to raise a lot of money for this to be successful. And what happens here is the beginnings of it. Hopefully it'll start spreading. We have another fundraiser going on next Friday in Riverside. They're doing a movie night. We're going to have more raffles. One of the things that I've found is that a lot of people don't have cash, but they've got things they can donate to raffles or auctions or things like that. We're going to be running an auction, so if people have any item that's got value, it's going to be an eBay type auction, and the money that's raised is going to go directly to the trust fund for the appeal. Just so you guys know, I had my wife sitting here for a second. She went back. Anyways, if the worst happens and I end up going away for a little while, my wife's left out in the cold. And we have a house, and we have a pretty modest lifestyle. We don't have a car payment or anything, but we have a house and basic bills. And we have a nursery that I'm getting some help at, getting that up in shape so we can sell plants and worm castings and things like that. But the reality is, I could go away for a year or two. And if I do that, she's in a really ugly spot. So I'm really hoping the community is able to come together and make a difference here. I'm working on a plan to be able to communicate, especially with the Human Solution and some of the core people, in the worst case scenario. So they won't be able to keep me down. They won't be able to keep me quiet no matter what they do. I'm working the details of that out. But nonetheless, I won't be able to earn money from where I'm at, and I won't be able to do anything about making sure that her needs are met. So that's where we're at right now. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. This is, again, the very beginning of this, and Diane Goldstein's got a couple of words to say.
I'm going to be real quick. It's really important for us to understand where Joe's at. My husband and I and a couple other people believe, so we showed up, well, my husband didn't, but I showed up with a couple $100 in cash for him. And it's time for all of us as a community to push forward, and I'm going to do whatever I can to assist with fundraising and everything else, and not wanting to throw politics into it, but it's really important. Joe and I have had this discussion. You have 4 initiatives that are on the table right now. It is really important for all of us to sign all 4 initiatives, no matter what your personal opinion is about the merits of those initiatives. But this is the year, because if we don't do something in 2012, there will not be an initiative in California until 2016. And there's a silent voice of people like Joe and others who are currently languishing in jail. And it's, educate yourself, get in front of initiatives, become volunteers. I don't care what campaigns. I'll come back another time when it's more appropriate to do a follow-up and a status update about RMLW. But, it's please let me know as a representative of law enforcement against prohibition what we can do to help push this forward and to protect patients and people who use marijuana responsibly. Because it is absolutely absurd that we've spent this amount of money in that type of trial, and I know exactly what it cost us from within the system, and for Joe to, in any way, shape, or form, be locked up and sent to jail or to prison for this. So this is a great, successful fundraiser. I'll get some tickets donated for the movie thing.
Excellent.
And what I'll do is I'll figure out a way to send them to you.
No worries.
If you can, send all the initiatives to Joe, and Joe will send
Well,
them
you
to
have petitions, don't you?
Yeah, we know about HR 2306.
No, yeah, this is the regulate marijuana like wine. So, and I can give an update. But one thing that I think is important, just to show kind of a difference, with regulate marijuana like wine, if Joe is in appeal and it's passed, he gets released. And so does anybody else who is currently in the process of being tried for this type of event. So, sign all the initiatives, real important. Get all your friends together, have initiative parties, raise money for Joe at the same time. I'm more than happy to come out and speak at fundraisers, that type of stuff for Joe, if it helps at all. So, okay?
Excellent. So one last note, just remember, every single year in America, 500,000 people are arrested and do some kind of time for pot. Every single year, and it's been going on for a long time.
850,000 people got arrested for possession of marijuana last year.
There we go. So we can stop this.
Our plan.
Ever. All right, so that's it. Now we're going to have some fun.